And as DJ said, of course, you can type in any questions you have and you will get an answer. So the first thing I want to talk about tonight is we want to look at some basics. So let's look at the very, very basic of when we open our software. Excuse me, I pulled up the manual. When we open up our software, our My Floriani Today screen comes up. Very basic. Everything is self-explanatory here. So we just want to actually go in right now to myfloriani.club. Now remember, you can enter this club on any device that allows you to be on the internet. Now when you come in, of course you sign in. Now if you have never signed in to the My Floriani Club before, you need to request membership. And remember, this club is exclusive to our Floriani owners only. So if you do not have a login, please request membership. A form will be filled out, you'll send it in, and you'll get an answer back saying, here's your password, go on and get in. Now then you'll be able to change your password if you need to. Well, mine's already here, and I'm going to sign in. Now the reason we're signing into the club is because we've done a couple of little changes, and we want to make sure you're aware of them. And what we want to talk about is our monthly designs. We give you 5 free designs for being a Floriani owner every single month. So to get into those, you're going to left mouse click on that, and then you are going to see, as I scroll down, here are this month's free designs. Now over here we've got some tabs. Now I can install the current month's designs, assuming I've been downloading them all along. I can install all the designs. This is every design we have given away since 2009. Now if you have installed hit or miss, I did January but I forgot till April. If you click on install all designs, it will overwrite the designs you already have, so you won't have a bunch of duplicates. So you don't have to worry about that. But I'm going to click on install current month's designs. Now what we have changed is this is now going to come in as a zip file. So I'm going to say OK, and notice it's going into my downloads folder right here. Now I'm going to click. Now everybody's downloads folder is not in the same place, but somewhere along this bar you're going to be able to see downloads. So I'm going to click on my download folder and it says current month. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and you notice it brings up the folder with this in it. We're going to double left mouse click, and now we're just like we were before. I want to run this design. I'm going to click on run. It says press OK to install January 2015 in the free software designs. I'm going to say OK, and that quickly it has been added to my free monthly designs folder in my library. So that is how we're doing designs, and the reason we have done this is because a lot of times if there's executable files, files that will run straight from clicking on it like it used to do, that can cause problems. So our servers have requested that we not make that an executable file, that it is a download. It's much safer. So this is how we're doing it now. So this is how you'll get to your designs. So now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and close that down. I'm going to go ahead and close here, and we're going to be on our screen. Now we've had a couple of, well, we've had more than a couple, we've had several people requesting, not really understanding about how we bring designs in and work with them in FTC-U. FTC-U is such a powerful program. We have made it so there's nothing you can't do, but we've also made it very simple for simple functions. Now let's take, for instance, I want to bring in a design. I'm going to go to my library. I'm going to go to my Anita Good Designs, and I'm going to click on Celestial. And I'm going to hover over my designs. And you can see right here I have an Anita Good design. I'm just going to bring this, drag and drop on screen. Now the first thing that you're going to notice about this design is it's grouped. It means I can't get individual pieces to work with in this design because it's all grouped as one design. So the first thing I'm going to do if I wanted to work with individual pieces is I would come right here to the top to my ungroup icon and left mouse click. Now that I've done that, now it's all individual little pieces. It's not all in one stuck together piece. But I want you to notice I brought this in. I brought it in an art format. I drug an art format over. I did not drag a C2S file or a WAF file over. This is just a regular machine format. So if I wanted to say edit somewhere, maybe I wanted to edit one of these scrolls or something, if I came down here and I selected this color and I came over here, I want you to notice my shape tool is not available. Well, I'm going to click on this plus sign and I want you to notice here under this plus sign I've got stitches. This is a manual stitch. This is like your tie-on, tie-offs. Now here is a satin path. Now the minute I selected that satin path, you will notice my shape tool came alive. So now if I wanted to go and edit that shape, I could click on it. I could zoom into this. I could go ahead and come in here and fit to that selection. And now I could come in here and start moving these pieces around. We're going to come and look. I'm going to get a new piece of paper. I'm going to come and just drag in any design. I'll drag in another design out of this design folder. This is a big one. So it'll take just a second to come in here. This is a huge design. And I'm going to look under here. And again, this has broken it up beautifully. And I can work with all the individual pieces. What I'm trying to get to, I'll tell you. And for some reason, it's working just like you would want it to here. There are two ways to bring designs in Floriani. And if I go to Open, File Open, and I go into that same Celestial folder, and I click this same design, I want you to notice this Convert to Outlines is selected. Now let me explain how data works in these designs. A lot of times you'll bring a design in and you cannot get your shape tool to activate. The reason being is it just comes in as stitches because you have not told it that I'm going to work with this as outlines so I can change the shape, edit, work with it. So I would need to say Convert to Outlines to go ahead and open that up. So when I opened it up as Convert to Outlines, now it gives me complete autonomy as far as working with this in my software to go ahead and edit pieces. Now sometimes you'll bring a design in and you'll just open it up and you won't have Convert to Outline selected. So let's open up a design. And I'm just going to go ahead and go up, and I'm going to pick something else. We'll pick from somewhere else. Let's just come in here, pick some borders. That'll be fine. And I'm not going to convert to outlines. I'm going to leave that deselected. Now let's open up this design. Now I want you to notice when this design comes in, I'm going to look under these, and I want you to notice every bit of it is stitches. Do you see this? You notice I don't have the satin stitch. I don't have that broken down because I did not convert to outlines. So when it comes in this way, no matter what I select, my shape tool will never become active. So I brought it in. I did not convert it to outlines. So what can I do with this? What good is it if it comes in this way? Well, what's great is this is simple. Let's say what I wanted to do is I have a design that I like just fine. Maybe what I want to do with it is I would like to change the color. I don't want that turquoise outline. I want to change the outline on this butterfly. So I could come through, I could look at my threads, and I could say, you know what, I want it to be this dark blue. So I can change the color. I can also rotate this. If I selected everything here, everything on my screen is selected. I went into my sequence view and left mouse clicked on select all items. Now I could rotate it. Now let me show you something about resizing. Remember, again, this is a not converted to outlines design. So now I could resize this. Notice I have 12,247 stitches in here. If I resize this, notice I just made it a lot bigger. I'm going to make it a lot bigger. I want you to notice my stitch count never changed. So it is not redigitizing this design. It's not recalculating, regenerating the design. It's just allowing me to stretch it bigger. So when you bring your design in, not converted to outlines, you do not have the editing capabilities. You're not going to have it regenerate when you resize. You can change the colors in it. I could add lettering to it. But basically the design is exactly what you got originally. And that makes it really easy. If all you want to do is bring a design in and change a couple of colors, this is the way to do it. If you're just bringing a design in to convert the format, this is the way to do it. But if you want to work with a design, if you want to do more with it, then when you open up a design, remember, we are going to convert to outlines, and then let's go down and find this design. I don't know where it was exactly. I just grabbed it from where it's TCB2. Let's see here. That one? There it is. Let's open it now, bring this in. Now this is the same design, but remember now I have converted it to outlines. So now if I come in here, I can come in and I can select a portion of it and I can start working with this portion. Let's take this satin path. Now with this satin path selected, let's fit, and let's go ahead and go to our shape tool. Now I can come in here, fit this to selection, and I would be able to edit this leaf. I could change the angle in the leaf. Remember, the angle line is the two black circles and the black line. If I wanted to change the outline shape of the leaf, I can take my blue boxes. Those are my outlines. By hitting enter on my keyboard, it has generated those stitches. I could change the start point, which is green, the stop, which is red, hit enter and it becomes real. Those functions, editing of my design, I can now do. Why? I opened it in outline mode. I selected, I opened up the color, because you can never edit a manual stitch. There's nothing to edit. You were the needle. You told it where to drop the needle. Now on a satin, I can definitely edit a satin because I have a whole lot to do with it. So I could come through and I could edit all of these leaves as I saw fit. I can come in here, there you go, and I can now edit and play. So it's real important to understand, if you bring it in without converting to outlines, you do not have all the flexibility of editing. However, if you don't want to edit it, you just merely want to change colors, go ahead and bring it in and don't worry about converting to outlines. Where the little rub comes in is we are very used to just opening a design and bringing it in. We never think about what convert to outlines is or why it's there. We have given you more functionality in this program, so we've given you more options. So remember, if you're just doing a quick move over, you don't have to worry if this box is selected. But if you want to work with it, make sure your convert to outlines is selected and then open it, and you'll be just fine to go ahead and edit your designs. I hope that's clear. I hope it answers the questions that we've been asked about this feature. It's a wonderful feature, and I'm very glad we have it. So I'm glad we can bring in a basic design or convert to outlines to edit a lot further. Now that was one of the major questions we have. Another question that I'm having a lot of questions on is our color bar. So we're going to talk a little bit about the color bar. The first thing is you can see it's simple. All the colors are down here. I can move by one color. I can use my double arrows, move by color wave. I can come over here to select the thread chart, and I can pick whatever brand of thread I have. Now, I don't know why everybody doesn't have Floriani Poly, but if you didn't stitch with Floriani, notice if I come down here and hover, that's Floriani Poly Neon Red number 3. But if I came in here and said I need to change it to Isacord, if I hover, that's now Isacord Polyester Bitterroot 2220. So it has all the thread charts in here for you, because we do know that a lot of us have several different brands. Now, if I wanted to look for threads, I have a little search, my little magnifying glass here. I'm going to left mouse click on it, and I could type in green. Now it's going to start bringing all my greens up. So I could go ahead and scroll through, look at greens, go ahead and scroll through the color wave, and I could see what greens were available. I can also say I want 232 green. I know the color of the thread. So if I find it, there it is. So it came up and I could change in my design. So let's go ahead and bring in a design. It doesn't matter what it is, we'll just bring it in here. Bring in this design, and there's its color. So if I wanted to change, come in here, and I didn't like this garish yellow, I could select it, and then I could say, you know, I want that to be 237. Find it, left mouse click on it, and it has changed that entire color. Now that is really nice because it changed the whole color. Because what happens is this really has lots of different elements in it. It's got several different leaves, but it has grouped them all together in one color, making it easy to change the entire group. Because with our software, it keeps that entire group of color together. So I could come in here and change this. Now I could also come in here and create my own thread chart if I wanted to, that had the colors I wanted along the bottom. So I can come in here and I can come up to my tools and I can go to Thread Chart Creator, and I can call this Kathy's Favorite. Okay, so this is going to be my favorite. And I can come in here and I can import, and I want, wrong import. I can import, I want Floriani Poly to start with, and I can go to import, I add color. Well, let me tell you, I'm going to mess this up, and I do it all the time. Add a color, there we go. I'm going to import a color, there we go. I apologize. Let's start over. I just went brain dead, so let's start this over so it's not so confusing to you. I've come in here and I'm going to create my thread chart called Kathy's Favorites. And I'm going to go ahead and import, and I'm going to go ahead and push my little question mark, and I want to import color 232. So that's one color I want to put in my thread chart, and I'm going to say import. Now I'm going to go ahead and import another color, and I'm going to click this, and I'm going to say I'm going to put in 198. It's my red I liked, so I'm going to find and I'm going to import that. Now notice I'm adding these to my thread chart. This is Kathy's Favorite thread chart, and I can go ahead and add in as many colors as I want. So we're going to go ahead, import. I'm going to hit my question mark. I'm going to put 503 gold. I'm going to say find it, import it. Now notice they're all in here. I can add the ones I want. So if you had a design that you wanted to work with specific colors with, here you are. Now I'm going to go ahead. Now that I've got all of these in here, I'm going to save it. Save Kathy's Favorite, yes. Now I can go ahead and exit out. If I wanted to come down here and click on this, I could go ahead and come to Kathy's Favorite thread chart and bring in the threads that I wanted to use. So now my threads are in here. If I selected this, I could go ahead and make it Kathy's Red. And so you can see, and this says Kathy's Favorite 198 Wine. So you can see how you can work with the thread chart and the thread bar down here. You can type in the name of a color. You can type in the number of a color. You can create your own custom thread chart with the colors you like to use. Some of us have favorite colors that we use all the time. Well, you can create your own thread chart with that. And that helps a lot.
Hey, Kathy.
Now, yes, sir.
One thing that I think is really neat, too, is if you go back up to your tools and create thread chart.
Yes, sir.
One of the really neat features is if you go and you go to open and find yours.
Yes.
You can also have multiple brands in there. So if you hit open.
Oh, yes, that's true.
And let's say that you have some of the threads are something other than Floriani, like Floriani cotton maybe.
Yes.
You go to import, and then you can go and you can choose, like a Floriani cotton, for instance,
okay,
and import that. So you can have multiple brands and multiple styles inside of one thread chart. So if you're creating your own and you have multiple brands, you can create that thread chart that has all of the colors that you own in multiple brands in one thread chart.
Which is absolutely wonderful.
Sorry I interrupted. I just want
to.
No,
I'm glad you did because, of course, I only stitch with Floriani, so I forget. No, that's absolutely true. You can change to whatever thread charts you want to go with all of this and continue. But now remember, if I've added this color, remember to save it, not just exit out. Remember to go ahead and save, yes, to make sure you've saved those other colors that you've added in. But that is our thread chart creator. We really like it. I love the fact that I can create my own thread chart with my own colors and bring it up as my thread chart at the bottom. I think it's just great. Now let's look at some other features. Now one of the things that I want to go over is a couple of things on lettering because we're talking about features you may have missed. Now you may be very familiar with some of the features I'm showing, or these may be features that you didn't realize were there. Now our lettering is a little bit different. Notice up here is my text tool. Now next to it there's a little drop down arrow. So if I left mouse click on it, it shows me the styles available to use. Now my first one is just plain old regular text. The next one I'm very excited about because it added a feature that y'all asked us for. I'm going to left mouse click on this, and now the A is stuck to my cursor, so we know I'm doing lettering. I'm going to left mouse click on screen. Now what I love is notice it says upper and lower. We used to have to create two circles. We'd have to do a circle with the upper text, then we would create this next circle with the same radius and tell it to reverse text to get our bottom. Well, everybody asked us, can't you give it to us all at once? Well, Floriani did it for you. So now I can select my upper and my lower. I can apply this, and I'm going to fit it to screen. And you notice there we can do our top and bottom text all at once. You ask us all to do this, we've got it for you. So we're real thrilled with it. Of course, you can come in here and change the style of text. You can change the height and width. All of that has remained the same, but we have given you the ability to put both lines of text within the circle. The next little text tool I want to talk to you about is something I wanted. I'm going to click on this vertical text. Now we could always do vertical text if we wanted to type an F, enter, L, enter, O, enter, but now I can just type it all in at once. I can pick a font and I can say apply, and notice I now have beautiful vertical text. That is so nice, and it was so needed. So we do have our vertical text as well. Let's keep moving. We also have path. Now, what I love about this path text, I'm going to click on screen. Let me select it. I'm going to click on the screen, and what it has done for me is it has given me a bunch of paths that have already been created. Now I can edit these. I can bring these paths up and change the shapes. But the thing I love about it is they gave me shapes for path. So if I grab this double, I could come in here and type Floriani gave us paths. And I spelled it right, good. I can apply that, and I can fit this to screen, and you notice it flows along the path. Now if I wanted to edit the path, I can do that, but the fact it gave us wonderful paths, and all the icons as far as control works the same. The blue diamonds are our kerning icons. It changes the space between the letters. And remember, something I have always loved about Floriani is if I want to change the space between this P and this A, notice the ATHS sticks together like a choo-choo train. That way I don't have to move each letter individually if I just need to change, like these two are a little close. So I can come in here and move this just a hair, but the nice thing is notice it kept everything else together very nicely. So that is a wonderful feature to have with that. And of course we know that if we pull this, I can pull this off. I can deal with this letter individually. By pulling it off, I can resize it, make it larger. You can't do that in all brands of software. This makes it really easy for us to edit and play with. Okay, so let's come back over here. I've shown you the three new ways we can work with text. Of course, let's look a little bit here. I'm just going to come to our regular text. Let me get a new piece of paper. Click on screen and type in just Floriani real quickly. Okay, I'm going to apply this, and I want to look a little bit at the text extras, because a lot of times we kind of miss some of these tabs. Now the text extras are important because first of all our so sequence is important. Now we want to start left to right, or we could start right to left, but what's really important about this is center. This center, and let's just look, let's go back to left for a moment, and let's watch this redraw. It starts at the left, very self-explanatory, very easy. But let's go ahead and select this, text back, and I'm going to come to my text extra, and I'm going to tell it center. Now remember, whenever you change something in here, if you don't apply, it's not going to happen. Now let's look how this stitches. Notice it starts in the center. It's going center out. Now why is this important? Well, first of all, the very first major reason for this is if you're stitching caps. I know a lot of you have multi-needles. And to stitch a cap, you must stitch center out. If you do not, you're going to end up with a tuck or a pucker in that cap. Also, I have found when I have jackets, heavy jackets that have multiple layers, if I stitch right to left, a lot of time I just kind of push that over and I end up with a tuck at the end. But if I start center out, it pushes it out very nicely on my jacket, and I don't have that problem. So having the ability to do center out is very important. It's something that's very needed. Okay, so that just gave us a little highlight on text. Now the next thing I want to talk about, to make sure y'all haven't missed, is some of our new repeat functions. So let's come into our library. Let's go to our free monthly designs, and we're going to look in there anyway because I want to make sure you see that when we brought in those designs, and I'm going to look at January, if I can read, there we go, January. There's January 2015. Those were the designs we downloaded at the first of class. You notice here they all are. So they came right into our free monthly designs folder. Wasn't any problem to bring them in. So let's drag a file just onto screen because I want to look at a couple of things here. Now with this in here, I'm going to select all items. And I wouldn't recommend stitching this out like this, but I'm going to squeeze it down because I want to use some of the repeat functions and have some fun here. So with this in here, the first repeat function I want to look at for you is I want to look at our corners repeat. Now what we can do here is we can change the horizontal or the vertical distance. I mean, that you can, under that self-explanatory, you can see what I'm doing. What I really love here is I can play with the angle. So with playing with the angle, I can get some really neat looks moving this around. So I could do the four corners of something. I could come in, have this meet in the middle. You can have a lot of fun changing the angle. And here's something to look at right here, auto resequence by color. Now if I was just doing an initial on the corners, it really wouldn't matter. But as you can see, this design has several colors in it. If all I'm doing is auto resequencing by color, if I didn't do that, I would have to stitch out the red 4 times, then it would go to the blue, then it would go to the green, and I would change colors over and over. I wanted to stitch all the reds at once. Then I wanted to do the blues, the greens, the pinks, the blacks. That way it will sequence it so I don't have to change the thread a bunch of times. Even if you're stitching on a multi-needle, it stitches much more efficiently if it's not tying off and changing needles every 2 minutes. So this makes us have a much easier way to repeat and resequence by color. And again, you can just play around until it does exactly what you want. So how fun is that? So we're not going to apply this. I'm going to cancel because I want to look at some more of my features. Now I also have repeat design. Now this is if you're putting several designs on that you need to stitch out at the same time. So I want to repeat it, such as if I was going to do several leaves to maybe burn out and make a wreath with. I could fill that hoop. Or if I'm doing applique and I want to repeat maybe the applique shape across. So this is really a nice thing to work with. Now what I did, and it was because one of our other educators recommended it, I created a hoop that was the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So if I'm going to run an applique wonder through my printer to print out an applique shape, I can kind of see where that goes. But if you'll notice in here, this design is about 3 inches across almost. So if I have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, I'm only going to get 2 across. I could probably get 3 down. Of course, now if you're matching a hoop, it depends on your hoop size. Again, we can change the horizontal distance, the vertical distance, auto resequence by color. We can offset every other one. We could flip every other one. There is so much we can do in this repeat function, and this becomes great when you're trying to fill a hoop and utilize as much space as possible. This repeat function allows you to do it. It's also pretty cool if you use a motif and you change the offset by the degrees and everything. You could create fabric with beautiful little stitched out motifs on it. So there's a lot of fun you can do with this repeat function. So again, I'm going to cancel this. Now here's one we all love, and I'm going to make this small so I can play with it a lot. We love our fling. I'm going to tell you, DJ is the one that came up with getting this tool, and it is one of the most fun that there are. This is fling. Now the first thing you do with the fling is you tell it what size your hoop is. So let's say I have a 200 by 300 hoop. Now what it's talking about here in the design properties is the design is 1.71 inches by 1.44. Now I'm saying the smallest you can make it is 80% of that, and the largest repeat design I want to see is 140%. So we could change these. I could change this to 60, I could change this to 150, and that's going to tell it the small and large. Now I can tell it how many millimeters, the minimum spacing I want between each one, and now I can apply. If I don't like the fling, I apply it again, and it'll fling different. I can just fling it all over the place until I like the fling. Once I'm happy with how it's flinging it, I can say OK, and now that is going to generate that on my screen. Now again, I've told it to resequence the colors. Now this is a whole lot. I probably shouldn't have done that. Now it looks like heck, because since it's flung, there is no reasonable sequence here. And if we look, you're going to see it stitches out, it just jumps all over the place. So this is a very inefficient design. It's not a good path. It's going to take a lot of time on the machine. So I'm going to come down in this sequence view and select all items. And I've got some fun icons up here, and this says sequence. What this says is, let me sequence it in the most logical path I can see. So I'm going to click that, and it's going to take just a minute because, of course, I did fling a whole lot in a very large area. And so we're going to let it think it over. What it's going to do is it's going to repath this design so that it will stitch in the most efficient manner it can figure out. So I probably shouldn't have done something so stitchy and so big for this, but we're going to let it go ahead and generate and let this work out. But I really have enjoyed this fling feature. It's a lot of fun to use, especially if you're using some of our motif stitches. Now notice we're not as crazy anymore. Look at how much better this stitches out. Look, the order is much more logical. It's not jumping all over the place. So you can see how that sequence is a very, very nice feature to use. Now besides sequence, we have here where we can tell it to optimize the entry and exit points. Now what that means is if it finishes here, it would be best to start with the closest point of connect. So you also have optimized entry and exit points, and that works really nice with lettering and stuff. So it's a good feature to have and to have right here available on your toolbar. So these are some of our newer functions that are a lot of fun to play with. I want to also talk to you about probably my very favorite tool, and that would be our shapes, our custom shapes up here. Now we have just basic custom shapes, but if you click on the word custom shapes, we've got lots of shapes for you to play with. And we will continue to add more shapes to this folder as time goes on, because remember, you're always getting free updates. And so look in here whenever you get free updates and see if we've given you some new presents. So I'm going to come in here, and let's say I just want to take this glass. Now this came in. If we look in our sequence view, remember, this is artwork. It's not real. It's as if we drew it on screen. So what can I do with this? Well, I can do anything I want. I'm going to select it. Now remember, if it's not selected, I want you to notice everything I've got is grayed out. I can't do anything to it. So the first thing you need to do if you want to edit or work with anything is you must select it. How do I know it's selected? Well, it's highlighted here and it's got selection boxes around it. Excuse me. It's got selection boxes around it. Notice though, when I selected it, now everything's come alive. All my colors are here. Now I'm going to come right here, and the first thing I could do is change this to a run stitch. So if I just wanted to do a simple run stitch, make a cute little glass shape on something, there you are. Now it's a single run. So I picked my category, I made it a run, and now I can fine-tune it because anything I can do to this stitch is available right here. I am sorry, I had a cold over the holidays. I'm over it, but I still have the cough. So with this selected now, I could say, you know what, I don't want this to be a single run. I want it to be a double run, a bean. But what is so nice about this is everything that I could possibly do to this stitch came up right in front of me. So if I don't know the questions to ask, all I have to do is look in this box and it tells me everything that's available. So I've picked a bean stitch. Now what can I do to a bean? Well, apparently I could change the stitch length, so I'm going to change that to about 3, because when you start doing a repeat stitch, you don't want short choppy stitches. You want them to be a little bit longer. Then when I drop this down, it says I can do 3, 5, 7, 9, or 11 repeats. Well, I kind of like 5 and 7 repeats. I think it looks very nice. Gives it a real nice hand look. Now again, if I don't apply that, that is not real. So let's apply it. So remember, what are our rules? Select, Command, Apply. Remember, if you don't do that, you're going to come back and something's not what you thought it was. I guarantee you forgot to click Apply. Now I could take this same stitch and say, you know what? I would like this to have a nice little auto satin. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a steel stitch. I wanted a satin stitch around it. So I'm going to come and click this little steel stitch. And because I auto satined it, I crazed up the artwork. So you know what? Undo is your best friend. So I'm going to undo, come down, and now I'm going to do a nice steel stitch around it. So I could make this, if I was going to do a little outline, nice outline of a cup, I could do it here. I could also say, I want this, I'm going to come clear down, and I want this to be an applique. So now I have created an applique out of this. So here I am, got my applique, and I can create it. Now I want to show you some fun in our applique. I'm going to click on this, and notice all my applique came up here. Now there is some really neat stuff we've got with applique now. Now here, this tells me I can decide what I want to stitch. I can have a placement line, a tack down line, and a finish line. What if I don't want that satin finish and I want to do maybe some rayage applique look? Well, I'm going to come in here to applique extra. Now my placement line is the first one that went down. I can go ahead and change the stitch length of that placement line. I can come in here and change the length of my tack down line as well. So let me say I want to make this maybe a 3, and I can apply that. But let me show you what we've done for you. In this applique extras, I'm going to come in here and say I would like that tack down to be a zigzag. Now again, I can decide the width of the zigzag and the density. So think about the tackle twill. We can now, I could say, don't stitch out that satin finish, but I want to put some big letters on an athletic jersey. This is how I would do it. This would be my finish. So we have given you that ability in here. And something I am thrilled to death about is I love to do raw edge applique. Well, we never really had a way to do it before without tricking the software. Well, I don't have to trick anything anymore. I can do a raw edge applique right now by deselecting my finish and turning my tack down line into whatever I want. So that is pretty fun. Now, of course, with I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on. You've also got, of course, your blanket stitch. You've also got your motifs. So you've got a lot of fun in here. And remember, we're always adding stuff. We're always looking to see what else can we do, what fun can we have. So always look toward that. So that tells you a little bit what we've done. We've added into our applique. I don't know if y'all are getting your Floriani newsletter with your software weekly lessons. If not, know that they are on our website at thefloriani.club. And I've been doing them, but I'm not the only one. We've got other people working on these, which gives us all a different perspective. Last week we had Trevor do a lesson, and I want to tell you, I always learn something. I don't know if you have worked with our line. Now this is an artwork tool. I have a run stitch here, and I can create a run stitch, left mouse click, right mouse click, and you notice I have a run stitch. I can also create that first with artwork. So I'm doing the same thing, only now it's artwork, notice this, and then I would select it and change it to whatever stitch I wanted. Now I've got 2 runs. I could continue in this way creating stitches, and I have all these runs. Well, they're all separate little entities. And sometimes you'll see that in a design. You'll have 3 colors in a row that are the same color, and you would like them to just be one. You don't want the machine to stop in between. Well, I learned last week by watching Trevor, if I select all of these at the same time and I combine them, notice I just have 1 stitch now. So I learn constantly by watching other people teaching. I learned a lot from Trevor's lessons last week. Look at our software lessons of the week. You're always going to see things about what's new, what we've got. And I want to show just a couple of more quick features before we have to end our webinar. One of the other features I really enjoy is our fit to hoop. Now again, let's just bring in a design and bring this in. Now today I was working on some stuff with one of our other educators, Debbie Hoffheinz, and she was trying to make a sign, but she wanted it to fit to a hoop. She kept making it, it wouldn't fit in the machine. So we decided to use the fit to hoop icon, and that took care of it. So what this does is it fits to the hoop that you've selected. So let's come over here, and I'm going to select a hoop. Now when I select a hoop, notice there's my applique template, that 8.5 by 11. Now the first thing is when you go to select a hoop, you pick the format of your machine. The reason that is wonderful is because then it lists the hoop sizes under your machine brand. Before we had to filter through all the hoops from every machine brand, which is wonderful to have all those hoops, but you don't necessarily want to look through all of them when you're looking for your machine. So by having PES up, I know that my Brother Baby Lock hoops are all going to be listed. Now this super large frame is not in our software yet, but that's okay because I was able to create it by doing a new hoop. So if I wanted to create a hoop, I can type Kathy's favorite hoop, and then I can tell it if it's a rectangular or circular hoop. I can give it its width and height, so let's say it's 130 by 180, and I'm going to say OK. Now I have created that hoop. Now notice I had to create it in millimeters because millimeters are more precise. You can get finer measurement. But since I'm in inches up here, notice it's showing me right here that the hoop size I created was 5.12 inches by 7.09. So let's say OK. So there is that hoop. Now I want this design to fit my hoop. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to come up here to the Fit Hoop icon. So now it's as large as it could possibly be in my hoop. Now if I selected this and rotated it, obviously I've got more room now. Let's go to Fit to Hoop, and notice it's fitted as close as it possibly can to the hoop. Now by the same token, if I had a smaller hoop, there are some that have entry-level machines, and you may only have a 4x4 hoop or a 5x7. So here's my 4x4. Now the same way I can come select a design and tell it fit my hoop, and now that design has been brought down till it's small enough to fit in my hoop. Now this is an absolutely wonderful feature because then you don't have to get to your machine and find out it was a little too big or it could have been a little bigger. Use your fit to hoop. Now there's only one thing I would tell you about with this fit to hoop is that when you are fitting to the hoop, think a little bit about how your design is made. If you've got a design that's lots of satin stitching and you resize it by 200% or 250%, you may have a problem with your satin stitches being too wide. So remember to think smart when you're changing the sizes of these designs drastically. Is this going to be too small? Are these satin stitches going to be too small if I make this a 4x4 design? Well, let me get my ruler. Let's just measure across. What does it say? Oh, use a satin. I know that's perfect. I know I don't have a problem. This says, oh, use satin. I'm okay. As long as I haven't made it so wide that I need to change it, we're fine. If these said use a run, we know it would be too small. It would be less than 1.5 millimeters wide and would eat a hole in my fabric. So make sure you use wisdom when you're going through these. DJ, how are we doing on time?
We are getting pretty close. Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
No, I realized you were muted.
Well,
so
then, yeah, we're
I think
close to time, so I don't know if there was something else you wanted to show. Or...
Well, I was just going to show what happens when you lose your properties or your sequence view.
Oh, that would be great. I think
that's always a question.
Yes.
Sometimes we're in here playing, and we're trying to set something in our properties, and it disappears. And we have no idea what happened to it. We might lose our sequence view too. Those things disappear like magic on us. Now notice when I close them, I have a lot more space on my design screen. So sometimes people will deliberately close them. Most of us close them by accident. How do I get them back? Well, notice we have a tab up here that says Toolbars. Now notice that my sequence view is now deselected because it got closed. So the first thing is if I click a check mark there, my sequence view came back like magic. Now my properties is right here. It's an icon on my top toolbar. If I click on it, my properties came back. So if these get closed, all you have to do is go Toolbars, get your sequence view, or Properties. The other little accident that happens is if you notice, we have these pins here. Now if this pin gets hit, notice my properties went over here to the side. Now if I hover over it, I can see my properties, but what happened is just like you pin something to your billboard or your cork board, if I take the pin out, it falls off the board. Well, that's what happened. It fell off the board and went over here. So if I pin it back, and excuse my email, I obviously didn't close it. If you pin it back, notice it's back in shape and it's not hanging around the side. Same thing with my sequence view. If I unpin it, notice it's not in front of me. It's over at the side. Now I can hover over it and see it and play with it, but it's really hanging around the side because I unpinned it. So I would pin it back. So notice you might unpin it, so if it's going horizontally, it's been unpinned. If it's vertically, it's like it's stabbed into the board. So that's what happens when you lose your properties and your sequence view. I want to thank everybody for coming to the webinar tonight. I hope you picked up some tips you didn't know. Make sure you watch our weekly lessons, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Anything else, DJ?
Nope, I think we're good, and thank you. And I wanted to make one point. If all else fails and you can't get everything back to where it was normally, if you close the software and open it back up, it'll be right back where it should be.
Absolutely. That's our favorite. Turn it off and on.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, Kathy, and thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar.
Thank you, DJ. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank Karen, all of our helpers. We appreciate all your hard work. Thanks so much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.